Trump 2.0 has been a lot of chaos. There has been so much going on in this first 8 months of his second administration. He's used this second term to come after his political appointees and everybody that he feels has wronged him in some capacity. And this particular article is talking about the New York Times lawsuit that he brought against, where he was suing them for $15 billion because they said some unfavorable things about him. Well, the judge tossed it out. So he's over here taking some L's. And I am going to talk about this lawsuit that got tossed. But first, I want to talk about how he's been using the courts to bully Lisa Cook, one of the governors on the Fed board. He couldn't get Jerome Powell to quit, so he decided to come after Lisa Cook. He called her a fraudster, and he's using the courts to bully this woman. Donald Trump is not a king. He just can't come in and fire folks. And he couldn't just fire Lisa Cook unless it was for a cause. So they decided that she was doing some mortgage fraud, which is rich coming from Donald Trump, who evaded taxes by devaluing his properties and doing all kind of shady stuff in New York and with his property at Mar-a-Lago. He is a felon and a liar, but decided that he was going to go after Lisa Cook, talking about her principal residence and where she was staying and renting out. Basically, he's just trying to find some reason to fire this woman. Donald Trump took an L on this one too. So this is from a couple of days. White House readies appeal after second loss in appeal to fire Fed governor. A court blocked a last-minute attempt on Monday to remove Lisa Cook from Fed board ahead of a meeting to set interest rates. The White House indicated on Tuesday that it would not back down in its fight to remove Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve after an appeals court rejected a last-minute attempt to remove her ahead of a meeting to set interest rates. So they were like, you know what, we lost, but we're going to keep it moving because we know that the Supreme Court is in our pocket. So let's just keep pushing it up and pushing it up. So this was yesterday. Trump asked Supreme Court to allow removal of Fed governor. The Trump administration on Thursday asked the Supreme Court to immediately allow the president to remove Lisa Cook as a Federal Reserve governor, setting up a key test of presidential power with potentially huge economic consequences. Trump has moved aggressively to fire leaders of independent agencies as he seeks to expand executive power and seize control of the federal bureaucracy. His administration has targeted the central bank for months, pressing policymakers to lower interest rates. He keeps trying to expand presidential powers. He is trying to be king. He's trying to be a dictator, and he's using the Supreme Court and the fact that the Congress is so weak to do it. The court's conservative majority has repeatedly allowed Mr. Trump to at least provisionally fire leaders of other agencies without stating a reason, despite statutes passed by Congress intended to ensure political independence. The justices, however, have suggested that the Fed may be uniquely insulated from presidential meddling under the law. In any case, with the Fed, Mr. Trump said there was sufficient cause to fire Miss Cook. Justice Department lawyers have argued that the president has the power to fire Ms. Cook because Trump has alleged that she engaged in mortgage fraud in loan documents she signed before she joined the Fed in 2022. Ms. Cook has not been charged with a crime, whereas Donald Trump is a felon. They keep coming for people, but he is a felon, but they don't really care about felonies as long as they're coming after people that Donald Trump doesn't like. The emergency request to the Supreme Court came 3 days after an appeals court refused to allow the president to remove Ms. Cook, who was appointed by President Joseph R. Biden Jr. while her lawsuit challenging her firing was pending. As a result, Ms. Cook was present on Wednesday when the Federal Reserve voted to cut interest rates for the first time since December. Solicitor General D. John Sauer told the judges on Thursday that the reinstatement of Ms. Cook by the lower courts was yet another case of improper judicial interference with the president's removal authority. Here, interference with the president's authority to remove members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors for cause. In response, Ms. Cook's lawyers urged the justices to resist the president's request, which they said would be an extraordinary step. Temporarily removing her from her post would threaten our nation's economic stability and raise questions about the Federal Reserve's continued independence, risking shockwaves in the financial markets that could not easily be undone. A U.S. District Court judge in Washington on September 9th had temporarily blocked Mr. Trump from ousting Ms. Cook. The judge, Gia Cobb, said Ms. Cook could not be removed for conduct that occurred before she became a Fed governor, nor for claims that she did not involve her professional conduct. So Donald Trump is just trying to bully this woman he doesn't like because he's trying to get control of the federal board, even though it's supposed to be independent. But he said, who gives a damn about independence? Now let's come back to this lawsuit that he lost against the New York Times. So the highlight, judge says lawsuits aren't for raging against adversaries, like quit coming here just tattling on people. Jeez. And Trump claimed articles and book defamed him. Trump to amend complaint and follow the instructions from the judge. All right, so this just came out this morning. It said a federal judge on Friday threw out Donald Trump's $15 billion defamation lawsuit against the New York Times over its content, calling it a decidedly improper and impermissible effort to attack his adversaries. U.S. District Judge Stephen Merriday said Trump violated a federal civil procedure rule by failing to offer a short and plain statement of why he should prevail over the Times, 4 of its reporters, and the publisher Penguin Random House. Dude came in whining in 83 pages, just like, get to the point, dude. What did they do that was defamatory? He's like, dude, put it out short and sweet. Donald Trump put out 83 pages of whining. He faulted the president for instead packing his 85 pages, 85-page complaint with unnecessary statements lauding his successes and singular brilliance, attacking critics, and even defending his father. A complaint is not a public forum for vituperation and invective. Sorry, I don't know that word, vituperation and invective. Real quick before we go forward, vituperation is the act of verbally abusing or harshly criticizing someone. It refers to a torrent of sustained, angry, and insulting language. And invective is insulting, abusive, or highly critical language. Okay, let's get back to the article. All right, back to the article. It says, a complaint is not a public forum for vituperation and invective, not a protected platform to rage against an adversary, wrote Merriday, an appointee of former Republican President George H.W. Bush. The Tampa, Florida-based judge gave Trump 28 days to file an amended complaint in a professional and dignified manner of no more than 40 pages. So stop coming in here whining and wrap it up, dude. Trump plans to follow judges' directions. A spokesperson for Trump's legal team said in a statement, President Trump will continue to hold the fake news accountable through this powerhouse lawsuit against the New York Times, its publishers, and Penguin Random House in accordance with the judge's direction on logistics. In a separate statement, a Times spokesperson said, we welcome the judge's quick ruling, which recognized that the complaint was a political document rather than a serious legal filing. And is this even a political document? It just seems silly. It seems dumb. Penguin Random House did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Friday's order is an unusual rebuke by a federal judge to a sitting president over decorum in the judicial process. Trump sued over 3 articles and a book by 2 of the Times reporters. He accused the defendants of defaming him prior to the 2024 presidential election in order to sabotage his campaign and disparage his reputation as a successful businessman. Judge says a lawsuit is not a PR megaphone. In a 4-page order, Merriday said plaintiffs like Trump are supposed to fairly, precisely, directly, soberly, and economically tell defendants in complaints why they are being sued. Trump's complaint said the defendants baselessly hate President Trump in a deranged way and that their actions represent a new journalistic low for the hopelessly compromised and tarnished Gray Lady, a nickname for the Times. It also contended that the Times itself was deranged for endorsing Democrat Kamala Harris for president. A complaint is not a megaphone for public relations, the judge wrote. Although lawyers receive a modicum of expressive latitude in pleading the claim of a client, the complaint in this action extends far beyond the outer bound of that latitude. Donald Trump keeps bringing these lawsuits, and some of this is chilling free speech. So we're going to continue to watch this, but go ahead and weigh in on these 2 L's so far.